Have you ever looked at a modern game with all its fancy ray tracing and thought, yeah, that's cool, but why do some older games still look better? Well, you're not alone, and today we're diving into exactly that, with 10 classic games that still crush modern graphics in 2025. These are the timeless legends that didn't just survive the test of time, they laughed in its face. Whether it's the style, the atmosphere, or just pure visual magic, these games still turn heads in 2025. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's geek out over some absolute graphical beasts from the past that are still flexing hard today. You ever play a game that just feels like an epic movie from the second it starts? That's exactly what Ryse Son of Rome delivers. It throws you headfirst into the blood-soaked battlefields of ancient Rome and never lets up. You're swinging swords, deflecting arrows, and leading legions with the kind of cinematic flair that most games only dream of. The combat is brutal but smooth, built around timing and precision, and every fight feels like a perfectly choreographed dance of steel and shield. Visually, this game is still an absolute beast. There's something about the lighting, the detailed armor, the crumbling ruins, and the fiery chaos of war that makes every scene look like a painting in motion. But it's not just about looking good. It's about feeling the intensity of every moment, whether you're storming a beach under a rain of fire or locking eyes with an enemy in a duel to the death. The story's got weight too, driven by revenge, loyalty, and the kind of personal stakes that make the journey stick with you. Ryse might have flown under the radar for some people, but it's one of those games that hits hard and leaves a mark, especially if you love action games with strong storytelling and cinematic presentation. Have you ever played a game that made you feel like you were trapped inside a thriller novel you couldn't put down? That's exactly what Alan Wake does. It wraps you in this eerie, atmospheric world where the line between reality and nightmare constantly blurs, and every shadow feels like it's watching you. You play as a writer trying to make sense of his own unraveling story, and the deeper you go, the weirder and more intense it gets. The setting, this foggy, remote town surrounded by dark forests and flickering streetlights, absolutely oozes suspense, and the game nails that feeling of being completely alone but never really safe. Combat isn't just about shooting, you're literally fighting darkness itself using light as your weapon, and that mechanic makes every encounter feel tense and unique. What really sticks with you though is the pacing. It's like watching an episodic mystery show where each chapter ends on a wild cliffhanger and you have to keep going. The music, the narration, the way the story plays with your head, it all comes together in such a gripping, stylish way that even years later, it still feels fresh. Alan Wake isn't just a game, it's a mood, a vibe, and an experience that keeps you guessing from the first flashlight flicker to the final fade to black.
It's messed up. Something tells me I'm really gonna need the extra firepower. That's everything.
You know that feeling when a game just punches you in the face with raw power and never lets up? That's exactly what God of War from 2005 does. It's this wild, non-stop roller coaster of rage, revenge, and ridiculously awesome combat that made you feel like an absolute beast from the very first swing of the blades. You're dropped into this brutal world inspired by ancient mythology, and it's packed with jaw-dropping set pieces, giant monsters, and puzzles that break up the chaos just enough to let you breathe before things go nuts again. The combat is fast, fluid, and seriously addictive. You're chaining combos, tossing enemies around, and tearing through waves of creatures like you've got something to prove, and honestly, it never gets old. Visually, it was a beast for its time, with massive environments, epic boss battles, and this gritty, larger-than-life vibe that made everything feel so intense. But it wasn't just the action. It had this darker tone and backstory that gave the chaos a purpose. And suddenly you weren't just button mashing, you were on a mission fueled by something deeper. Whether it was your first time playing or your 10th replay, God of War wasn't just another hack and slash, it was the kind of game that grabbed you by the throat and dragged you through an unforgettable ride. And honestly, it still holds up as one of the most iconic action games ever made. You ever play a game that completely flips your expectations the second you dive in? That's exactly what BioShock does. It starts with a plane crash, and suddenly you're underwater, stepping into this hauntingly beautiful city called Rapture. And from that moment on, you're hooked. The atmosphere is unreal, like stepping into a twisted dream, where Art Deco meets dystopian nightmare, and every corner of the city feels alive with mystery and danger. The gameplay mixes intense first-person combat with wild powers you inject straight into your arm. So yeah, you're not just shooting enemies, you're setting them on fire, freezing them mid-step, or sending a swarm of bugs after them. And it's just insanely fun. But what really makes BioShock unforgettable is how it weaves story into every part of the experience, through the creepy audio logs, the eerie silence in abandoned hallways, and those encounters with the big daddies and little sisters that make you stop and think before pulling the trigger. It's not just about surviving, it's about exploring, uncovering secrets, and slowly realizing that nothing in Rapture is what it seems. Even after all these years, the atmosphere, the storytelling, and that one mind-blowing plot twist still hit just as hard, making BioShock a total masterpiece that keeps finding new ways to mess with your head in the best way possible. You ever play a game where your choices actually feel like they matter? Like every little decision shapes the world around you in wild, unexpected ways? That's exactly what makes Fable II so unforgettable. It throws you into this charming, whimsical, yet surprisingly deep fantasy world where you can be a noble hero, a total scoundrel, or something weirdly in between. And the world reacts to who you become in such fun and creative ways. You're exploring the land of Albion, which is full of vibrant towns, spooky forests, quirky NPCs, and just so many moments that make you stop and smile or gasp, depending on your path. The combat blends sword swings, gunshots, and magic in this super satisfying way that keeps fights fresh. But what really hooks you is how connected you get to your journey buying property. Starting a family, raising a dog that actually helps you out, and slowly seeing how your choices ripple across the game. It's one of those experiences where you can goof around doing side quests or dive into the main story. And either way, you're constantly discovering something new or hilarious or surprisingly emotional. Fable II just had this magical balance of humor, heart, and freedom that made it feel so personal. And honestly, even today, it still stands out as one of the most charming and immersive RPGs ever made.
No words.
Oh, Monty.
This must be the alley the warrants blew down. We should take a look.
You ever boot up an older game just to see if your PC can still handle it and end up getting completely sucked back in? That's exactly what happens every time I revisit Crysis. This game wasn't just ahead of its time visually, it delivered this insane sandbox FPS experience that let you feel like a one-man army in the middle of a tropical war zone gone totally off the rails. And I mean that in the best way possible. You're dropped into this lush, open island where the environment isn't just eye candy. It's part of how you play, like sneaking through the jungle, smashing through huts, cloaking past enemies, or just going full tank mode with the nano suit and wrecking everything in sight. It's wild how much freedom you have in approaching every fight, and it never gets old trying out different tactics because the game actually reacts to how you play. And once the sci-fi twist kicks in, things go from tactical to absolutely bananas. And I love how the game just leans into the chaos. Even now, the physics, the AI, and the level design still hold up shockingly well, and every time I play, I remember why people still say, "Can it run Crysis?" Not just because of how demanding it was, but because it delivered an experience that felt way ahead of anything else back then.
Saw something.
You know that feeling when you first pick up a controller and a game instantly hits you with that gritty, in-your-face energy that just won't let go? That's exactly what Gears of War does. It throws you into a brutal, war-torn world where every corner feels like it could explode with chaos at any second, and you're smack in the middle of it all, blasting through waves of monstrous enemies with that iconic over-the-shoulder camera and the meaty, satisfying pop of a chainsaw bayonet cutting through the tension, literally. What made Gears stand out wasn't just how intense and cinematic everything felt, but how it nailed the cover-based shooting before most games even tried, letting you slam into walls, pop out for a few quick headshots, then roll across the battlefield like a total beast. The Locusts aren't just some generic enemy, they're terrifying, ruthless, and they feel like they genuinely want to tear you apart. And the whole aesthetic of shattered cities and desperate survival gives the game this raw, gritty vibe that sticks with you long after you've put the controller down. Whether you were battling through the darkness with just your Lancer and some guts, or going toe-to-toe in epic boss fights, Gears of War was, and still is, an unforgettable ride that mixed brutal action with just enough story to keep you locked in from start to finish.
Okay, I think we're good. Let's grab some ammo.
Ever had one of those gaming sessions where the lights are off, headphones on, and suddenly you're plunged into this pitch-black nightmare where every shadow could be hiding something that wants to rip you apart? That's exactly the vibe Doom 3 nails. It takes the classic fast-paced, demon-blasting action you love and wraps it in this thick, terrifying atmosphere that feels way darker and more intense than anything before it. You're not just running and gunning here. It's all about creeping through those claustrophobic corridors, flashlight in one hand, shotgun in the other, heart pounding, as you wait for the next jump scare or brutal demon encounter. The sound design amps up every little groan and distant roar so you're constantly on edge, making each firefight feel like a pulse-pounding fight for survival. Plus, the way the game mixes sci-fi and horror elements with that unmistakable Doom brutality means you're never really safe, but that's what keeps the adrenaline flowing. It's not just about blasting monsters, it's about the whole immersive, nerve-wracking experience that grabs you by the throat and doesn't let go until you've ripped through every demon-infested corner of that Mars base. Doom 3 might have come out ages ago, but when you dive in, it still feels like a roller coaster ride through hell you won't want to get off. You ever get that rush from sneaking through shadows, heart pounding, knowing one wrong move could blow your whole mission? That's exactly what Splinter Cell Chaos Theory delivers. It's like stepping into the shoes of a super skilled spy, where every light you avoid and every silent takedown feels incredibly satisfying. The game throws you into these beautifully detailed environments, packed with tight corridors, high-tech gadgets, and tons of creative ways to outsmart enemies instead of just blasting your way through. What really sets Chaos Theory apart is how it rewards patience and strategy, making every stealthy move feel earned and every close call super intense. Plus, the story pulls you into a world of political intrigue and covert ops that keeps you hooked from start to finish, all while the gameplay balances slick action and sneaky tactics so perfectly that you can't help but feel like a total badass. Whether you're creeping past guards, hacking systems, or silently neutralizing threats, It's an experience that combines brains and brawn in the best way possible. And that's why it still stands out as a classic stealth game even years later.
It doesn't sound too good down there, Fisher.
The sound isn't the problem. You should smell it.
You're sure he's dead?
Deader than Elvis.
All right. Leave the body. We still need to recover any traces of the interrogation. Grim will call you back.
I already don't like you. Don't make it worse for yourself.
Who are you?
Shut up.
If you've ever wanted to dive headfirst into a gritty fantasy world where every choice feels like it could flip the entire story upside down, then The Witcher 2. Assassins of Kings is your perfect adventure. This game throws you into the rugged boots of Geralt, a monster hunter with a sharp sword and even sharper wit, navigating a dark, morally twisted world filled with political drama, ruthless enemies, and jaw-dropping landscapes that make every moment feel alive and dangerous. The combat is intense and satisfying, blending fast-paced swordplay with strategic use of magic and potions, so you're always thinking on your feet while carving your path through humans and beasts alike. What really sticks with you is how the game forces you to make tough decisions that actually matter. There's no clear good or bad here, just shades of gray that keep you second-guessing what the right move even is. From brutal battles to intricate storylines packed with unforgettable characters, The Witcher 2 isn't just about slaying monsters. It's about surviving a world that's as beautiful as it is unforgiving, making it one of those unforgettable RPGs that hooks you from the start and refuses to let go. Alright, that's a wrap on 10 classic games that still crush modern graphics in 2025. If you enjoyed hanging out and checking out these timeless gems, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I'd love to hear your favorites too, so drop a comment below and let's chat about which classic game blew your mind the most. Thanks so much for watching, and trust me, the next video is going to be just as epic. Catch you there.